Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, I'm going to be reviewing and showing off the most overpowered build in Elden Ring. I spent countless hours scouring the internet, checking out builds that people had already come up with to see what overpowered builds were already out there that haven't yet been patched out of the game or nerfed in some way. I then took all that information and played with the few most powerful builds in-game and tried and tested a few other things to try and get the truly most powerful build in the game. And this is absolutely insanely ridiculous. As you can see during these few opening clips playing out in the background now, I am absolutely annihilating most of these bosses in a few hits. And bearing in mind, to fully complete this build, you need 2 of the same weapon that you can only get once per playthrough. So this is on New Game Plus, so every enemy is far more powerful and has insane amounts of health. So pay attention to all the damage numbers you're seeing right now. We are doing thousands and thousands of damage with 1 or 2 hits. This is ridiculous. I will review the build in full with you later, but I wanted to demo the awesomeness of this build first and talk you through how and why we got to this point. This is absolutely insane and will absolutely trivialize every single successive New Game Plus that you decide to attempt. And I'm really hoping that we can smoothly and seamlessly take this build into the DLC and absolutely destroy it. Perhaps, you never know, we may even find new buffs, new spells, new weapons in the DLC that will enhance this and make this even better. And one final thing before we go into reviewing the build itself, you will already have seen there has been some absolutely spectacular fights during this intro. But the one I really wanted to call out specifically was the Fire Giant. I'm absolutely gutted I forgot to hit record when I was fighting the Fire Giant myself. I managed to no-hit him and it was so epic. So I decided to be summoned as a cooperator and help someone else do the Fire Giant. So as you can see here, they have backed off and they are not doing anything, and I am soloing him as a cooperator in someone else's world. So not only is this on New Game Plus, but as I've been summoned in as a cooperator, he also has increased health, and I am still absolutely melting him. Midway through the fight, we do then need to run back up to him again, because after the cutscene it doesn't spawn me where it spawns the host of the world, but they back off and wait for me to get there, and he is obliterated in a matter of seconds, racking up tens of thousands of damage. So now, I've teased you enough. Let's talk about the build, and then afterwards I will show you a few more incredibly spicy clips, so make sure you stay tuned. Firstly, of course, we need to talk about the weapons themselves. There is only one weapon that fits this build, and that is the Scavenger's Curved Sword. This is the only curved sword in the game that has inherent blood loss buildup. And this is absolutely imperative to this build for a few reasons. This build is all about proccing that blood loss buildup as quickly as possible. However, more importantly, we want to make sure that that bleed does as much damage as possible. Therefore, having the ability to spec the weapon into occult instead of bleed means that any bleed buildup will do absolutely off the charts numbers of damage. Whereas every other curved sword, you would specifically have to tailor it to bleed, and therefore you wouldn't get the insane increased values for having an occult weapon. Of course, there are many other swords and weapon types that do have inherent bleed, however I will come on to why it needs to be a curved sword in just a minute. Next, you're going to apply the Ash of War Seppuku to both swords. This adds a flat 30 attack power to your weapon, and an additional 118 bleed build-up once you get up to 80 arcane. So that brings the base passive effect of each sword up to 200 blood loss build-up. Bearing in mind, most enemies will suffer blood loss at around 150 build-up. And you've got 2 swords that both deal 200 build-up per hit. And this is when we get into why they need to be curved swords. The jumping and running attacks of the curved swords will do a total of 4 attacks. That is 800 blood loss build-up in the first millisecond of a fight. And because we've specced into a cult, that blood loss proc will do so much more damage than if we had bleed affinity. You can get this sword right here in Mount Gelmir, just behind where a grafted scion spawns. As I say, this is the one and only location in the game where you can get this sword, so if you want to use this build to its full efficiency, you will need to do this on New Game Plus. Now that you fully understand why we're using these swords, I'll review the rest of the build. There are only 2 armor pieces that are important. This is Varre's White Mask, which you can acquire by defeating all 3 White Mask invaders during his questline. You can check out my Varre questline video if you need to know how to get that. The reason we want this mask is because it will raise your attack power when there is blood loss nearby. And there is always going to be blood loss nearby. Next, we're going to wear the Raptor's Black Feathers because they strengthen your jump attacks, and we are going to be using nothing but jump attacks. And finally, I personally round it off with 2 parts of the Lionel set, just so we have a little bit more survivability. And now, as we take a look at the talismans, I just want to let you know, this isn't even my final form. So, we have got the Rotten Winged Sword insignia, which you get for completing Millicent's questline and opting to help her, and this will greatly raise your attack power with successive attacks. Then we've got the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which raises your attack power when in the vicinity of blood loss. This one is dropped from Esgar, the Priest of Blood in the Lanedale Catacombs. Next up, we've got the Claw Talisman, which further increases the strength of jumping attacks. This one is located in Stormvale Castle, on a corpse atop a watchtower. And finally, I am currently using the Prosthesis Wearer Heirloom for an extra 5 dexterity, and this is another earlier reward in Millicent's questline. However, there is a better version of this, and that would enhance this build even further, and that's Millicent's Prosthesis. This is the alternative ending to Millicent's questline, where you actually challenge and defeat her. And that gives you the combined effect of this talisman and the Rotten Winged Sword insignia, and it will stack with the Rotten Winged Sword insignia, meaning your successive attacks do insane amounts of damage. And then finally, we combine all of that with Godric's Great Rune, and in our mixed physic, we use the Dexterity Knot Crystal tier to have even more dexterity, and the Thorny Cracked tier to make our consecutive attacks even stronger still. And finally, to put it all together, we put away our right-hand weapon and dual-wield our left weapon so that we can use Seppuku on that one. Then we'll bring the right weapon back out again and do the same so that both swords are now charged with the blood loss. Follow it up by drinking your mixed physic and now jumping attack to your heart's content, dealing tens of thousands of damage a second. Now sit back and relax and enjoy this build in full swing as you watch a few more epic boss fights. And if you have enjoyed this video and would like to see more amazing Soulsborne content, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and please give the video a like. Along with videos like this taking hours and hours of my life and requiring an entire 2 full playthroughs just to get this together for you, I would really appreciate it if you wanted to show even further support for the channel and drop a couple of dollars support as a super thanks, or even better still, because you would then also be rewarded for your support, you could become a patron over on patreon.com/domsroundtable. Over there is a plethora of rewards to thank you for your support and your nightly service. And I'm hoping to enhance them rewards more and more the bigger this channel gets and the more we grow. Once again, thank you so much for being here. It truly helps because I put every single waking moment into this channel. A lot of literal sweat and tears have gone into this, and I would love to be able to continue doing this for you as passionately and frequently as I have been able to for the last few months. And with that, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.